Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to have a little bit of a flashback into what I used to do when I photographed weddings. I started doing weddings in 1975. After a while I learnt that one of the little things you can do, and I used to do then, I don't know whether people are still doing this, but was to make use of a stepladder in wedding photography. Both a taller one like this one's just a fraction less than my height, and then this smaller one here, which is only comes up to my waist. It does. You can just see it in my waist there. So and that, by using these ladders when I was doing weddings, I found I could get some good elevation. Now today, of course, you're going to be if you're an established wedding photographer, you've probably invested in a drone, which can take the place of using a ladder. When I first started doing my blogs years ago, and then my YouTube channel, I put lots about my wedding photography and what I did, and some tips and how to get started. And I've run lots of wedding photography classes here in Adelaide, and so you'll find if you go back to my blogs and you go back to my YouTube channel, you'll find much about wedding photography. But by far the most popular post I have on my blog is the one called Using a Stepladder in Wedding Photography. So I'm just going to outline a little bit of that, and I'll put a link underneath back to that blog where you can see some examples of what I'm talking about when you use a ladder. Using a ladder, you can get a bit of a vantage point, a taller one or a smaller one. And I used to put these in the back of my station wagon on the way to a wedding. Sometimes I'd use them, sometimes I didn't. I didn't really ever use one inside a church, although I did on one occasion. This smaller one I used inside a church. You'll see an example of that on my blog post. But I found them very useful also, not only in weddings. Well, I'll say the reason why I use them in weddings. One, it gives you a bit of an elevated viewpoint, as people using drones have now found how wonderful that is. And particularly if you had a taller couple, maybe taller than you, you could get up a little bit higher and look down so that you are not below their level of eyesight. You're not looking up to them. You are getting a nice, better composition. And also, one example you'll see on my blog is where this couple were quite tall and had a beautiful lake in the background. If I had have taken those shots at that level, you wouldn't have seen anything of the lake. This is just a head and a waist and shoulders shot up. You wouldn't see anything in the lake, but by getting up a little bit higher on the ladder, you can. Now, of course, these days, you've got your flip-out screens. This is a Canon 700D. This is. So with a flip-out screen, of course, you can hold it up like that, and you can use your viewfinder and get that extra elevation by doing that. And look up at what's on the screen, and you can get a nice elevated shot. But also in where I used to use the ladder for this sort of thing was also a couple of years in a row I was asked to take photos of the best and fairest winners in the football club just down the road. And that's an oval that's surrounded by houses and streets and whatever. And if I was taking a shot of a young lad or an older guy with their best and fairest, with their football and their medal around their neck at that level, I'm getting all the houses in the background. But by getting up on the ladder, in fact I used one high like this one, by getting up on the ladder I was able to just put the green grass of the oval in the background, totally isolating the subject. So there you go. It's a very useful tool. I don't know whether anyone's game enough to do this anymore. I used to forewarn people when I was interviewing them, prospective wedding couples. I say, look, I'm a little bit different sometimes, and don't be alarmed if I bring a ladder out. And I sometimes, of course, used to have my assistant helping me with a ladder. And a ladder also used to be a good thing because young kids would congregate around the ladder, and some of them would climb up that were in either guests or in the wedding party, and you get some nice shots of the kids climbing up the ladder. So there's lots of uses for a ladder still. But of course, if you get into drones, I'm hoping to learn how to use a drone soon, because we're going to be using one in our photography group that I assist with people who have Parkinson's disease. So the other thing I would caution is that and don't blame me if an accident happens if you're climbing up one of these ladders, even the smaller one or the tall one. One of the problems that is happening around the world these days is that, and people don't realise this, is that when you hold a camera up to your eye, it's the same as shutting your eyes, and you are taking away your ability to balance properly. And I had a very, and there's been lots of deaths all around the world of people trying to get to that vantage point, holding this up on the edge of a cliff, and next thing they're over and they're gone. You know, so be careful whenever you're taking photos in an elevated position, holding up to your eye. Very early in the piece, when I was still a beginning photographer, I don't think I'd done any weddings. We were on a holiday in Tasmania, and I had my trusty Pentax Spotmatic, and I had it, I think, around my neck like that, and I was standing up on a log above about a I don't know, 100-foot drop down to a road below, and the log was sort of a balustrade to stop cars that were parked on the top of that lookout from going over. And this is in Tasmania. And I stood up on the log against my wife's wishes. She said, "Don't get up there, you'll fall off." And oh no, I'll be all right, you know. So I got up on the log, I turned this way, there's the gap down there, I turned this way to take a photo, put it up, and the next thing I knew, I was losing my balance, and I pitched forward between the log and the cliff face. There was a gap of about that much, and I pitched forward over as if I was going to be heading down the cliff, and my right foot landed on the ground right next to the edge of the cliff. My wife, who was standing quite close to me, quickly grabbed hold of my camera strap and pulled me back, and if she hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have been doing all these YouTube videos or blogs or whatever, and I wouldn't have had children even. So be careful when you're doing these things, when you're taking photos. It's good to get in all the right angles and get the latest shot and the best shot, but you've got to be careful of your own safety. Another incident, which I think I've written on my blog post, is that I had this taller ladder one day, and I was trying to get a shot of this whole group of people outside the front of this church, and I wanted to get some elevation. When you're doing group photos in weddings and any other group photo, it's good to get some elevation to look down. And so I set them all up out the front of this church, put this ladder under a tree, and I scampered up the ladder, and when I got to the top of where I wanted to be, bang, I hit my head on a branch from this solid pine tree it was, and I went crunch, you know, like that. And next thing I started to get a splitting headache. The people all sort of laughed a bit, and I said, "It's all right, just trying to do that to get your attention and to get you all smiling." However, it wasn't intentional, and when I got down afterwards, for the rest of the day while I was doing that wedding, I had a headache and I had some blood seeping out of there, but I managed to get by. So be careful. Anyway, follow the link to my blog post about this, and have a look at the examples of the shots I've taken. And if you can't afford a drone yet, maybe think of taking a ladder along with you to your next wedding or whatever event it is you're photographing. So once again, thanks for watching. Like if you like, subscribe if you wish, and I'll see you next time.